Lot's wife, the shocking story of divine disobedience and the miraculous transformation into salt. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the Lord sent 2 angels to Sodom, where the air was thick with wickedness and the cries of the oppressed rose like smoke into the heavens. Adu, wife of Lot, lived in that accursed city, her heart burdened by the darkness that surrounded her. Though she clung to the comforts of home and the laughter of her children, she sensed the weight of iniquity that stifled her spirit. Day by day, she watched acquaintances become shadows of themselves, trapped in the mire of sin. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ominous glow, the angels arrived at Lot's doorstep, their radiant forms shimmering like celestial beings. "Escape for your life," they declared. "Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Flee to the hills, lest you be swept away." Adu felt a jolt of anxiety ripple through her heart, deepening her internal struggle as immediate chaos began to unfold. Would she leave behind her dearest friends? The home echoing with memories? Lot, resolute yet anxious, summoned Adu and their daughters, urging them to flee the impending destruction. Adu stood frozen, torn between her love for her family and the allure of her past life. Her thoughts spiraled like the flames that illuminated the night, wrestling with the fear of the unknown against the pull of familiarity. As they sprinted into the night, the atmosphere crackled with urgency. But in her heart, Adu lingered, haunted by a tapestry of joy interwoven with grief. The city that housed her dreams was now a landscape of flames and despair. Shadows danced in her mind, whispering of laughter shared, voices echoing through the once hallowed streets. Suddenly, smoke billowed into the sky, and Adu's heart raced, caught in a storm of nostalgia. The very air shimmered with the ache of loss, and as her family pushed onward, she turned back, her longing piercing the night. In that fateful moment of disobedience, as time held its breath, the earth trembled and she was transformed. Adu's body morphed into a pillar of salt, the very essence of her hesitation crystallized into eternity. No cries reached the ears of Lot, who, with daughters in tow, strained against the tides of fate, pressing forward in disbelief. The luminous fires consumed Sodom, leaving behind only remnants of disobedience, a statue forever mourning the past. As the distant mountains loomed closer, Lot wrestled with anguish. "What has become of Adu?" he murmured, each word a dagger piercing his heart. The echoes of her laughter haunted him, an unanswered prayer caught in his throat. The burden of her absence, a painful reminder of the struggle between faith and fear, weighed on him heavily. Could a heart once filled with love now become a mournful reminder of disobedience? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Lot and his daughters pressed on, hearts burdened with the thoughts of home and the beloved woman whom fate had separated from them. Her image lingered in his mind, a shadow in the twilight. Yet still, a question marinated in the air, echoing through the mountains. What would he do now, in this vast wilderness, with the ghost of Adu whispering through the flames? The future lay ahead, uncertain and heavy, the echoes of their past lingered like smoke in the air, leaving them yearning for the impossible return of lost time. Lot and his daughters ascended the rugged slopes of the nearby mountains, their hearts heavy with grief and doubt. The air was thick with the scent of destruction, a bitter reminder of the life they had left behind in Sodom. The stars twinkled overhead, but their light felt cold, as if even the heavens mourned with them. Together, they sought refuge in a cave, a womb of darkness shielding them from the horrors they had witnessed. As night enveloped them, Lot's daughters, Orpah and Moab, whispered anxiously among themselves. "Our mother is gone, and our father weeps," Orpah declared, her voice trembling. "What shall become of us? Who will provide for us in this desolate place?" The weight of their future unveiled before them, vast and intimidating. Lot, lost in sorrow, paced the cave, recalling their life in Sodom. "If only we had not lingered," he lamented, clenching his fists. If only she had listened. The pain of loss spiraled within him, an unshakable agony that twisted through his heart like a serpent. Yet deep within, a flicker of resolve ignited. He understood they must survive, for the seed of Abraham lay within them. He needed to guide them away from despair. "It is true," Moab said, anxiety heavy in her voice, "our mother disobeyed, yet we cannot forget the promises of our God." Lot heard the truth in her words, a reminder of the covenant spoken to Abraham. "We shall not walk in the ways of Sodom, we are set apart," he affirmed, steeling himself with newfound strength. But the rural echoes of the mountains led them back to heavy silence. Darkness wrapped around them, and visions of home flickered in their minds. In their moment of despair, Orpah suddenly spoke, as though a revelation bloomed within her. "Father, what if we are to become a new nation? The descendants of our mother, the salt of the earth, even now." The thought surged through Lot's mind as lightning illuminating the bleak landscape of grief. "Yes," he exclaimed fervently. "We will not waste our pain nor our loss. We will mark a new beginning, trusting it shall be made anew." Doubt washed away like the tides drawing out ash from the remnants of Sodom, and a deep tenacity seeped into their bones. As dawn approached, the sun broke over the mountains, its warm light spilling like grace over the earth, and Lot gathered his daughters, laying hands upon them. "We must hearken to God's purpose. Even in the ashes of despair, there lies divine potential." But in the shadows, unseen to them, the Lord's gaze rested firmly upon the remnant of Abraham. "For I shall establish a great nation from the lineage of Lot," though he does not see it yet, the Spirit breathed, hidden but resolute in the fabric of destiny. The dawn continued to rise, golden rays piercing the peaks as the daughters watched their father, who now stood resolute, a flicker of hope sparking anew in their hearts. They embraced the uncertainty and transformed pain into purpose, as they prepared to forge ahead. But what they did not know, nor could they foresee, was that the very flesh of their grief would lay not just the foundation for survival, but also weave the tapestry of a precarious legacy long before the world could comprehend. What might emerge from their story, only the Lord alone could tell, for his hand was moving invisibly, shaping the destiny of nations through their story of survival and faith. And it came to pass, as dawn painted the skies with hues of gold, that Lot, renewed in spirit, led his daughters from the cave, their steps echoing upon the stones that whispered of calamity and hope. With the sun's warmth upon their faces, they journeyed forth, leaving behind the memories of Sodom's tainted glory and the shadow of despair. "Let us settle far from here," Lot urged, his heart now resolute, "where we may cultivate the land and raise our families." He glanced at his daughters, their gazes cast down, yet hinting at a budding anticipation for the future. "In solitude, we shall reforge our legacy, abundant in faith." As they traversed the rocky path, Moab found courage to speak, her voice a gentle murmur borne by the mountain breeze. "Father, could we not also remember our mother? She loved us dearly, though the world tempted her, her choice brought destruction. Let us honor her memory as we strive for righteousness." Lot paused, the burden of grief once again pressing upon him. "You speak wisely, my daughter. Though her heart turn to ash, we must yield to the Lord's will. Let her memory guide us away from disobedience." With that, a resolve anchored deeply in his soul, he vowed not only to honor his wife's legacy but also to rise above her failures. Yet, unbeknownst to them, the lingering essence of Sodom lay shackled in their hearts, like a specter waiting for the opportune moment to ensnare them. Orpah, anxious and contemplative, wondered aloud, "Is it wrong to hope for what was? Can we not take a portion of the life we lived there?" Moab shook her head, "Hope not for that which the Lord has taken. We are called to be a new people no longer burdened by sin, but formed anew in divine purpose." Their journeys continued until they arrived at a land not too distant, lush and untouched, teeming with potential. Lot surveyed the horizon, a sense of longing igniting within him. "Here shall we build our home, a sanctuary distant from the desolation we fled." As they set to work, the toil of labor ignited a spirit of resilience. The three moved as one, planting seeds in the earth. Each seed pressed into soil symbolized surrender to the land, to one another, and ultimately, to the divine plan that loomed just beyond sight. Yet one fateful evening, as twilight cloaked the day in darkness, Lot, alone upon the hilltop, was gripped by memories of what was left behind. The laughter of his children, the fragrance of his beloved's perfume, the warmth of their hearth all became juxtaposed to the stark reality surrounding him. A soft voice stirred within him, whispering words of temptation, in yearning for your wife, spare the past. A glance, a glimmer of familiarity brings comfort. Lot wrestled with the temptation, a chill running the length of his spine. No. He cried out, we must not turn back, our eyes must remain fixed forward, trusting the Lord's promise. As if in response, the wind began to stir unexpectedly, and a shadow flickered dimly within his heart, urging a warning. But back at their dwelling, Orpah and Moab toiled on, unaware of the growing storm within their father. They were busy weaving the fabric of a new lineage, but in the cool night, the scent of salt lingered upon the air, whispering of a destiny that was just within reach. Father, Moab called to him, breaking the silence as she knelt, a handful of earth in her palm. What if the Lord desires for us to rise as a nation, but we are bound by shadows of the past? And in that question lay the hook of destiny, not merely a tale of survival but a call towards transformation, as God prepared to breathe into their lives the breath of nations, yet unborn covenant promises intertwining with the fabric of future generations. Unbeknownst to them all, the trajectory of their journey had been set long before, and from the remnants of grief would spring forth a lineage that would carve its path into the annals of history, whispering hope across ages. What they could not foresee were the contours of God's sovereign plan, a future filled with both trials and triumphs that would echo throughout generations yet to come. Thus divine mystery hovered above them, waiting to reveal its grand design. And it came to pass that as night cloaked the land, a flickering hope ignited within Moab and Orpah, entwined with the shadows of their father's disquiet. They gathered their strength as sisters and knelt before the earth, calling upon the name of the Lord, seeking clarity amid their uncertainties. Great God of our fathers, Orpah lifted her voice, trembling yet resolute, we offer unto you our hearts. Mold us as clay in the potter's hand. Teach us your ways that we may not stray from the path of righteousness. Moab echoed her prayer, her spirit kindled by the divine. Grant us wisdom, O Lord. Lead us into the covenant of faith and allow us to bear forth a legacy in your name. Unknown to them, the air thickened with a presence unseen, a divine force preparing to unfurl its tapestry across the generations. And as dawn would soon break, the Lord would awaken their spirits to a glorious yet challenging legacy. Meanwhile, Lot found himself wrestling with visions of yesterday, his wife's laughter mingling with the crackling of flames that consumed Sodom. In that moment, on the precipice of despair, he felt the deepening shadows close in around him. The temptation circled him as a vulture, waiting to feed upon his chaos. I must remain steadfast, he whispered, drawing strength from the promise God had previously spoken to him. I will be your shield, and your exceedingly great reward. Yet even as he made his declaration, the memory of his wife emerged vividly. Lot recalled her gaze as she turned upon those fiery pillars of destruction, her heart a prisoner of the past. The ache in his soul deepened, and the air seemed to shudder with unspoken fears, teasing him into doubt. With trembling hands, he grasped a stone near his feet, the smooth surface a reminder of burdens he could not bear alone. Lord, he pleaded, if it be your will, grant me strength to lead my household down the path of righteousness. In that hour, the heavens flickered with distant lightning, as if the angels observed his struggle, the weight of loss, the yearning for comfort, and the desperate call for direction. And just as the storm broke above Lot, a voice came to him, a whisper on the wind, do not be afraid. The sun shall rise again. In the days that followed, as Lot labored alongside his daughters, the earth responded to their toil. Tender shoots sprouted from the once barren soil, a sign of fresh beginnings. Yet within him still lingered the echoes of torment, casting a foreboding shadow upon their promise yet to unfold. One evening, as twilight cast long shadows and the scent of ripening grain filled the air, Moab and Orpah ventured near the hills, chasing laughter, where their hearts ached yet brimmed with potential. Orpah felt the tension that crackled through the evenings, the doubt lingering in her father's heart. Sister, do you not sense something stirring? We are but a remnant, yet I feel the Lord moving within us. Oh, surely. Moab replied, her eyes glistening like morning dew. We are the branches, and he is the vine. But what if Father's heart is not aligned with God's plan for us? As if responding to her words, a distant rumble rolled across the horizon, followed by a brilliance illuminating their path. It was in that moment of divine display and prophetic significance that the sisters understood the gravity of their lineage. With hearts full of expectation, they ventured back home. Inside, they found Lot kneeling, deep in prayer, the lines of worry etched across his brow. They joined him, hands clasped, invoking the name of the Lord together. Mighty God, they cried in unison, reveal to us the end of your purpose. And as the darkness succumbed to the dawn, the stage was set for God's undeniable, sovereign purpose to be fulfilled. What lay ahead was a journey steeped in trials and grace, and yet, the seed sown would yield a bounty inconceivable. Thus the light of the new day cast long shadows, foreshadowing destinies intertwined and paths unchosen. For as they arose to their new dawn, the Lord whispered, I shall bless the sons of Moab and Ammon, and through you, my covenant shall unfold, reshaping history for generations yet to come. The mystery of his plan unfurled before them like a tapestry in the hands of the divine weaver, ready to reveal the wonder of his redemptive love. And it came to pass that as the sun rose over the hills of Moab, illuminating the fields that bore the signs of new life, Lot felt the stirring of a divine purpose within him. He rose from his prayer, a renewed determination in his heart, ready to lead his daughters along the path set before them. Come, daughters, he called, as Moab and Orpah approached with expectant hearts. The Lord has granted us a fresh start, and we must cultivate the land with diligence, for his promise rests upon us like dew upon the morning grass. As they began their daily labors, the soil turned under their hands, and the scent of the earth filled their lungs, a reminder of a Creator who brings forth life from death. Lot spoke of the hope he felt, recounting the promises that had sustained him. God has spoken to me, said Lot, his voice steady and firm, he will not forsake us, for we are his chosen vessels. But beneath the surface of this newfound resolve, the shadows of doubt loomed larger than the sunlit fields. Orpah turned to her sister, a flicker of concern in her eyes. Sister, while we plant with faith, what of our father's grief? There is a sadness that weighs upon him, as if he carries the ashes of Sodom within his heart. Moab nodded solemnly, aware that while their hands tilled the earth, their father's spirit wrestled with the memories of destruction and loss. We must nurture his soul as we tend the soil, she said softly, for it is not enough to grow crops, we must also heal our household. As time passed, the sisters took turns comforting Lot, speaking words of truth and life, reminding him of God's faithfulness. Father, they would say, not all is lost. Look at the growth around us, a sign that the God of our fathers still cares for us. Yet, the serenity of their efforts was shattered one fateful day when a figure appeared at the edge of their fields, a nomad traversing the land, his clothes dusted with the remnants of long journeys. Puzzled and wary, Lot approached, sensing an unearthly presence. Who are you, traveler? He asked, surveying the stranger. I am a messenger from the Most High, the man replied, his voice like thunder rolling across the hills. I come to warn you of that which is to come. Beware, for the wickedness of the inhabitants near your dwelling is rising, and judgment is near. The word struck Lot like lightning, igniting the buried fears within his heart. O God, he cried out, how long must we endure the specter of the past? The messenger stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. Prepare your hearts, for calamity approaches. But remember, there is always a remnant that God preserves. For through you, a lineage of redemption shall be birthed. With that pronouncement echoing in the air, the sisters exchanged troubled glances. Moab felt the weight of providence press heavily upon her, and Orpah's heart raced with the urgency of it all. What shall we do? They whispered in unison. Trust in the Lord, Lot declared, his voice rising above their fear. We will seek his guidance and call upon him for strength. Days turned into weeks as the family remained on high alert, praying and working the fields with renewed fervor. Yet, over their heads the storm clouds gathered ominously, a dark reminder of God's impending judgment. but in the quiet of the night, a voice broke through the fear like a herald of hope. "Fear not, for the Lord is in control. Keep your eyes upon me, and I will lead you to triumph, even in the midst of turmoil." Then, in the stillness of the night, the words of a prophecy flickered in the hearts of Lot's daughters like a candle flame from the depths of darkness would rise a savior. Moab and Orpah felt the stirrings of destiny within them. As dawn broke anew, the sisters gazed at the horizon, hearts entwined in faith. God's plan, thick with mystery and redemption, still awaited its revelation. Thus, the scene was set, the tension palpable. For as they stood ready to face the trials ahead, a profound truth lingered: through their lineage, the nations would witness the glory of God's promise unfold. What awaited them in the valleys of despair, and how would God's redemptive story intersect their lives? The answers lay shrouded in divine mystery, waiting just beyond the reach of their understanding. And it came to pass that as the sun sank low in the heavens, casting an amber glow across the fields of Moab, the spirit of unease weighed heavily upon Lot's household. Moab and Orpah, kneeling beside patches of rich earth, toiled with the harvest, but their hearts were troubled, for a dark foreboding had taken root within them. "Father," Moab said in a hushed tone as she wiped the sweat from her brow, "the warnings of the messenger linger still. What shall become of us?" Lot, weary from his labor, looked up towards the horizon where dark clouds loomed ominously, a reflection of the turmoil brewing within his heart. "The Lord is our refuge, my daughter. Though the earth quake and the heavens tremble, he shall not abandon us." Yet, even as he spoke, shadows flickered in his mind, memories of the destruction that had engulfed Sodom and Gomorrah. In the depths of his soul, Lot remembered his wife, consumed by the flames of disobedience. Her parting glance haunted him, a reminder of the consequences of turning from the divine command. The Lord had said, "Do not look back," and she did, becoming a pillar of salt. He whispered, the memory choking his breath. Orpah placed her hand over Lot's. "Then we must be steadfast. Each day, let us plant our hearts in faith, lest we too find ourselves ensnared by the bitterness of regret." They prayed together as the sun dipped below the horizon, seeking divine guidance before the tempest of judgment that encroached upon them. With each passing night, the wind whispered warnings, and their dreams were filled with visions that stirred their spirits. On a night when the moon hung low, pale and full, a new spectre appeared among them, an ethereal glow illuminating a figure before them. The messenger returned, and his voice resonated like rolling thunder. "Behold the word of the Lord," he proclaimed, "for he has heard your supplications. Yet, his judgment on the land draws near. Calls for repentance have not been heeded, and the fate of these lands is sealed unless a heart of righteousness is preserved." Lot trembled at the urgency of the words, a foreboding realization dawning upon him. "Tell me, O messenger, what must we do to escape the coming destruction?" "You must take your family and flee. Yet heed my voice, do not look back, for the past will call to you with a siren's song. Let the chains of what was not keep you from what is to come." Moab and Orpah looked to their father, their hearts pounding with fear and hope. "We will obey," they declared in unison, their voices lifted like a pledge before the heavens. As the first light of dawn painted the sky, a solemn calm fell over the household. Lot gathered his daughters, telling them of the journey ahead, the need for faith unfettered by the ties of sight. They gathered their essentials, and as they prepared to depart, an overwhelming stillness enveloped the land, pregnant with anticipation. "Let us go now," Lot urged, sensing the ticking clock of divine judgment. With heavy hearts and steadfast resolve, the daughters took their father by the hand and led him from the fields that had witnessed their labor. They turned their backs on that which could not remain, a life shadowed by the past, but as they traversed the land, the echo of what they left behind gripped Orpah's heart. "Is it truly wise to sever our ties so?" she whispered to Moab, her thoughts veering towards memories of home, of joy, of familiar laughter. "Keep your gaze forward, sister," Moab urged, the spirit of hope kindling in her chest like a flickering flame. "The Lord leads us to a promise yet unseen, a land where sorrow may fade in the light of his glory." Yet, as they pressed forward, the allure of the past loomed large. Behind them, the fires ignited and the cries of despair punctuated the silence. The temptation to glance back weighed heavily on their spirits. Would they remain faithful to the call of God? And in that very moment, a profound truth rang clear: the journey out of darkness was but the beginning. For little did they know that through their lineage, a greater salvation awaited, the dawn of hope rising from their obedience. So they continued to flee, unaware of the marvels yet to unfold, mingling hope with trepidation, readying themselves for the revelation of God's enduring promise, impending and magnificent. As they journeyed away from the blaze that consumed their past, the air thickened with anticipation and dread. Lot led Moab and Orpah over rugged hills, their feet pounding upon the earth, a rhythmic beat echoing against the backdrop of turmoil left behind. The cries of the lost fading into distance, a poignant reminder that they were escaping not just destruction, but the very essence of what their lives had once been. "O Father," Moab urged, her voice trembling with uncertainty, "what awaits us in this new land? Will we find peace where there was once only chaos?" Lot, steeling himself, replied, "The Lord has promised us a refuge, a place flowing with milk and honey. But we must guard our hearts against fear. For fear is a weight that can drag us back into despair." His eyes reflected a flicker of hope even as the memories threatened to overwhelm him. Orpah, caught by the winds of doubt, hesitated, "Yet what of our kin? The ties we severed, will they be forgotten?" Her heart wrestled with memories of those they left behind, the laughter and the tears. "Forget not, dear Orpah," Lot said, a gentle wisdom lacing his tone. "For our journey carries the echoes of our past. Carry them with you, but do not let them bind your steps forward." As they pressed on, the cracking of the earth beneath their feet sounded like thunder in their ears, the dread further illustrating the path of righteousness before them. The distant glow of the cities illuminated the night sky, casting long shadows that danced ominously along their path. Yet behind those shadows, a promise loomed, a promise of safety and deliverance. Suddenly, the ground quaked beneath them, as if the very essence of creation was responding to the divine call. "We must go faster," Lot commanded, urgency bleeding into his voice as they raced forward, flesh and spirit united against the scramble of despair clawing at their backs. But Orpah, feeling the tug of longing, called out, "What if we are forsaking all? What if our hearts, heavy with sorrow, doom our souls?" Her frozen steps encapsulated the battle raging within her heart. "Lift your eyes," urged Moab, steadying her sister's trembling hand. "For our path is illuminated by His grace. We may not see what lies ahead, but we trust the One who leads us away from perils we cannot comprehend." Yet the pull of the past tightened its grip, and in that fearful moment of vulnerability, Orpah glanced behind. The flames licked greedily at the sky, swallowing life and laughter. The anguish of loved ones echoed in the night, a sorrowful serenade that beckoned her, whispering temptation to linger just a moment longer. "Orpah!" Moab cried, her voice breaking through the suffocating fog. But it was too late. Lot turned, sensing the peril that had seized his daughter's heart. "No! Do not look back!" He shouted, the words harsh, but filled with love. "Do not forsake the commands of the Lord. You cannot dwell in the remnants of what was while striving towards what shall be." But the torment was too great, and in that fragile instant of disobedience, Orpah faltered. The soil beneath her feet erupted like a tempest, and the heavens opened with the weight of divine judgment. She stood paralyzed, a figure caught between two worlds, and suddenly, the flames contained within her heart ignited into the essence of her destruction. From the depths of her inner struggle, as she became a monument to warnings unheeded, Moab cried, "Father! We must not linger." Resolute, Lot grasped his remaining daughter's arm, and they surged forward, feet pounding against the ground, their breaths mingling with hope and fear. As they crossed the threshold into the promise, the earth trembled once more, and the sky roared as God's final decree resounded, signifying an end and a beginning. Yet amidst the turmoil, a new truth unfurled, unyielding. The lineage that bore the weight of this transformation would give rise to tales yet unwritten. For in the shadows of disobedience, the seeds of redemption were already being sown, their roots entwined with the very essence of God's sovereign plan. The winds whispered a different promise entirely, one of divine continuation, revealing that through their trials, the hand of providence would guide future generations toward a destiny intertwined with hope. The revelations of divine purpose hung thick in the atmosphere, waiting to unfold. A new chapter awaited, heralding God's merciful designs yet to be unveiled. As dawn broke, the horizon shimmered with hues of gold and crimson, a new day heralding the strength of hope but also the stark reality of loss. Lot and Moab stood on the edge of the promised land, their hearts heavy with the remnants of what had been, yet yearning to embrace what could be. "Look, my daughter," Lot spoke, the weight of his words layered with grief and determination. "See how the Lord is faithful to his promise. We have escaped the devastation, but we must still seek his face in this new land." Moab's gaze ran over the vast plains before them, where hills rolled in gentle undulation toward the distant mountains, promising pasture and rest. "Father, will we truly find what we seek here, fruitfulness and peace?" she asked, trepidation lining her gentle tone. "In this land flows the abundance of God's grace," he reassured, "but we must walk in obedience and faith. Remember the lesson of your sister, her heart was torn between two worlds, and she became a warning to all who would look back." Lot's voice trembled slightly at the thought of Orpah, whose choice now haunted them, yet as they traversed the land, Moab could feel the shadows of uncertainty beginning to creep into her heart. The remnants of their former life replayed in her mind, echoes that twisted in a cacophony of doubt. She recalled her father's words once more, spoken with a fervor that had ignited flickers of hope in many. "Will we be accepted here?" Before she could dwell further, the earth trembled slightly, as if responding to the storm brewing within her. "The presence of the Lord is with us," Lot urged again, sensing his daughter's struggle. "And commitment carries with it divine protection." The landscape ahead shifted, revealing an unfamiliar city emerging from beneath the veil of morning mist. "Take heart, Moab," Lot exclaimed, excitement igniting in his spirit. "This is the land of promise, as foretold by the prophets. Here shall we fulfill our destiny." In that moment, the division appeared clear between trust and uncertainty, yet Moab found herself drawn to the shadows that lingered behind her heart. "But what if?" she began, fear threading through her resolve like a fraying rope. "Yet what if we choose to stand in faith?" Lot interjected, his voice lifting above the sound of her fears. "For if we keep our eyes focused on his promises, the Lord will guide us. He is a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day." They advanced further into the land, the tension of expectation mingled with the fear of what they'd left behind coloring their steps. Lot positioned himself as a bulwark, shielding his daughter from her own misgivings as they crossed through the gates of the city. What lay before them was not merely a city but the embodiment of destiny, resilient and replete with potential. Yet unseen, a divine gaze fell upon them, and from that moment, a profound stillness settled in the air. "Father," Moab spoke, her heart straining against the silence, "what if even now, we bring forth a lineage that fulfills promises yet unspoken? What if the road before us is not just our own?" "Indeed, daughter," Lot pondered deeply, "because the echoes of our lineage may intertwine with something far greater than ourselves. The Lord's covenant with Abraham continues to unfurl within us, and I sense his spirit urging us forward." As they gathered strength from each other's faith, Moab's heart stirred with a resolute flame, awakening a sense of purpose intertwined with the uncertainty they faced. Yet a whisper rode on the breeze, soft yet ominous, a divine reminder of the stakes tethered to their journey. "Do not look back," it seemed to surge through the landscape, a resounding echo of their past trials converging into the present. In their newfound resolve, a shadow lifted slightly, revealing God's sovereign plan that danced just out of reach, bending time and hope into a tapestry of future promise. It was then that she realized, beneath the tumult of loss, lay the seeds of something magnificent. Would they yield to the divine tapestry being woven before their very eyes, or would they continue to grapple with the remnants of what once was? And so, within the aching tension of anticipation and divine purpose, the story awaited its next chapter, a whisper of destiny entangled with heart-wrenching decisions and sovereign intimations of grace yet to be fully revealed. As Lot and Moab stepped through the formidable gates of the city, a sense of urgency pressed upon their hearts. The bustling marketplace before them was alive with the sounds of vendors calling out, children playing, and the rich aromas of cooking wafting through the air. Yet amidst the vibrancy, an underlying current of tension lingered, a whisper of foreboding that seemed to entwine itself with the very essence of the land they had approached. "Father," Moab hesitated, the vibrant sounds contrasting sharply with the weight of her thoughts. "What of those who dwell here? Will they welcome us, or shall we become outsiders in a land meant for our inheritance?" Lot, sensing the turmoil within her, took a deep breath, imbuing his voice with certainty. "We must trust in the Lord's provision. The journey begins not only in seeking acceptance from others but in knowing that we are accepted by Him. Find comfort in the promise given to Abraham, in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed, Genesis 12 verse 3. As they moved deeper into the city, they were met with watchful eyes. The people were a reflection of diverse backgrounds, their hearts largely indifferent to the daughters of a man who had once wandered in the shadows of Sodom. Moab's heart raced, wondering if she could be the vessel of blessing amidst such uncertainty. Would her name resonate in the halls of history? Suddenly, an elderly man approached them, his face lined with wisdom and sorrow. "Travelers, where do you journey amidst the turmoil of this land?" His voice carried an unexpected gentleness, yet there was a depth that spoke of hidden stories. Lot answered, his conviction rooting deeper into his spirit. "We seek refuge and a place to nurture our future, for the Lord has led us here." "Ah, but understand this," the elder replied, lowering his voice as if sharing a sacred secret. "This land carries its burdens. Many have turned their faces away from the Lord's covenant. Beware of complacency, for it often comes draped in comfort." Moab felt a shiver run down her spine at his words, the warning resonating within her like a bell tolling in the distance. "Are we to expect trials amidst God's promise?" she murmured, uncertainty creeping into her voice. "The path of faith is often laced with trials," the elder affirmatively noted, "yet do not fear, for even amidst storms the Lord can create avenues of blessing. Trust in Him and hold fast to your resolve." As he spoke, a commotion erupted nearby. The people gathered, their faces awash in fear and concern. Lot's eyes narrowed, sensing the urgency as he turned towards the crowd. "Let us see what troubles them," he urged, taking Moab's hand. They moved closer, and there, at the center, a man was being accused, his voice raised in desperate plea, "I have done no wrong. Yet your hearts are hardened against me." The accusations, echoed by a multitude, pounded against Lot like waves crashing against a rocky shore. Thoughts flashed through Lot's mind: could they one day stand in the midst of such tumult? Was this the land where their destinies would intertwine with the covenant blessings promised? "Fear not the uproar, Moab," Lot spoke resolutely, though he felt the tremors of fear beneath his own heart. "For the Lord must reveal the righteousness within this chaos." Yet, as they stood together grappling with the doubts and hopes interwoven in each moment, Moab's spirit was ignited with a flicker of determination. "Father," she boldly declared, her resolve crystallizing, "what if this very moment is part of our testimony? What if our presence here serves as a beacon of hope?" "In your words I hear truth," Lot replied, pride swelling in his heart. They were called for such a time as this, to be instruments of God's grace in the midst of rebellion and turmoil. But just as encouragement began to weave its way through her thoughts, a far-off rumbling echoed once more, a subtle reminder of the world they had escaped. The shadows of their past whispered threats, and a sudden realization gripped Moab, gnawing at her: could their journey become entangled within the very sin they fled? As she gazed into the heart of the moment, everything swirled around her, the voices around them becoming a cacophony of choices yet unmade. Sometimes the most profound decisions are forged in the fires of adversity, and in that very instant, unseen, the tapestry of God's sovereign plan began to unfurl further, hinting at destinies intertwined with echoes of past transgressions and future promises. What awaited them on this path was shrouded in divine mystery. Would they step into the unfolding narrative of grace, or would they become mere shadows in its wake? And it came to pass that as the days unfolded, Moab and Lot made their home in the land of promise. Their toil paved a new path in the soil where their roots would take hold. With each seed sown, faith blossomed anew, and the memories of Sodom faded like the mist on the mountains. Lot guided his daughter with renewed hope, ever mindful of the lessons born from the ashes of the past, yet, even in this new beginning, shadows of doubt lingered, as if the accursed memory of Sodom had swirled within the winds of their experience. One morning, while Lot surveyed the fields, a quiet urgency stirred in Moab's heart. "Father," she began, her voice steady yet imbued with concern, "do you not sense that darkness still lurks nearby? We must remember the warnings of that which we escaped." Lot, troubled by his own thoughts, paused as the weight of her words settled upon them. "We are called to be a beacon of righteousness," he replied solemnly. "But we must also remain vigilant, guarding our hearts against the whispers of temptation." As they continued to labor, the community around them began to take notice. The townsfolk, once indifferent to their plight, soon recognized the spirit of resilience that enveloped their household. Among them was a daughter of the soil, a woman whose heart had grown weary of the darkness that enveloped the land. "Lot," she spoke one day, standing at the fringes of his field, "I have seen the work of your hands. It breathes life anew into this land long overshadowed by despair. Will you join us in nurturing hope and restoring righteousness among our people?" Lot considered her words, feeling a swell of purpose rising from within him. "Indeed, we shall stand united. Together, we will cultivate a community grounded in faith, one that turns from the shadows of the past and walks boldly into the light of the Lord's promise." As their covenant deepened with the new inhabitants of the land, Moab stood by her father's side, feeling the tide of destiny shift beneath their feet. Each day brought fresh challenges, yet in those struggles lay the opportunity to forge their legacy. They spoke of purity and faithfulness, reminding the people of the covenant promises of God, intertwining their lives in a pursuit of a shared mission. Then the time came when Moab felt the stirrings of something profound within her, a divine purpose that called her to rise into a role beyond her understanding. "Father, I believe the time has come to embrace our calling to bear fruit," she said, her heart racing with anticipation. "Let us welcome those who desire to join us in this journey of faith. Let their hearts intertwine with ours in seeking God's righteousness." Thus, they opened their home wide, inviting those burdened and seeking refuge from the tempest of their lives. The assembly grew, igniting a fervor across the town. The teachings of their history became the cornerstone of a new nation, where each story woven into the fabric spoke of grace and redemption. But as they flourished, Moab's heart still trembled, recalling the spirit of her mother, a cautionary tale, as every daughter carries the legacy of her mother. She often turned to Lot, urging him to remember Adu not merely as a caution, but as a call to greater vigilance. "We must honor her memory, Father. For in recognition of our past lies the wisdom to guide our future." And Lot nodded, grateful for his daughter's wisdom. "Through our choices, we shall be a testament to her lessons. May her sacrifice remind us to press on, knowing that this is not just about us, but the generations that will call upon our name." As the years unfolded, the two women together stood steadfast, hearts emboldened by the Spirit of God. The women became instruments of divine influence, their voices drawing strength from the very soil they tended. The town began to transform, awakening to the powerful legacy of their faith. One day, the skies parted, golden rays spilling across the horizon as if heaven smiled upon their journey. It was then Moab, emboldened by this divine moment, stepped into her calling. "Hear me," she proclaimed, addressing the gathering of townsfolk, "we yield ourselves to God's purpose. Let us forge a lineage that echoes through history. We are not mere survivors of the ashes but champions of what is to come." Their firm resolve echoed in the hearts of the crowd, and as they rallied together, divine ordination enveloped them, and their roots sank deep into the promise of God's enduring covenant. When the dust of their legacy settled, the nations to come would bear witness to the fulfillment of God's sovereign plan, a lineage of faith and redemption to rise from the remnants of their past. And in the quiet moments that followed, as the sun dipped below the horizon, lighting the faces of the faithful gathered, the air shimmered with possibility. Lot embraced Moab, his heart overflowing with gratitude, for he beheld in her not just the reflection of his late wife but the embodiment of hope. "We are a new beginning," he whispered, standing firm on the threshold of destiny. As days turned to years, a new remembrance was birthed, not a pillar to be mourned, but a legacy to champion. The lineage of Moab and Lot would be a beacon of faith, drawing souls to the light of God as promises fulfilled, reminding all that those who heed the whispers of the past can indeed shape the future, and it is written in the annals of history that through their obedience and faith, redemption bore forth a new dawn, a signal of hope, intertwining the hearts of many through the ages yet unwritten. Now, dear friends, as we close this chapter, let us remember the steadfast promises of our God. The journey does not end here. Take this story to heart. If you have been blessed, I invite you to act, subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next powerful biblical stories. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm. Comment below with your reflections and insights on how this tale has impacted your faith. And please share this testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. True believers recognize the importance of uniting in faith to reach more souls for Christ.